I'm Insomniac, and this is the Pagani Design PD-1682. Okay, so a big shout out to Anthony for sending this in. The last watch you saw on this channel and many of the other watches you've seen on this channel, Anthony actually sent in. If you have any cool watches you want to see reviewed here at Should I Time This, email me at shouldItimethis@gmail.com. I'll let you know where to send the watches. They'll be reviewed, insured, and sent back. First things first, for the sake of not having to make this entire review a comparison between this and the Rolex that it's modeled after, this is clearly a homage piece to a Rolex Explorer II, specifically reference number 216570. And now that we have that out of the way, from here on in, with the exception of when we get to the value portion of the review, I'm just going to review this watch as is so we can see what kind of value and quality we might be getting here. Let's get into the watch. The case on this watch is very well done. The machining is crisp, both the brushed and polished surfaces are nicely done and fairly uniform, and the tolerances between the lugs and the bracelet end lengths are pretty impressive. They also did a good job with the stationary bezel, which has a solid brushed pattern that moves outward from the dial, and deep engravings for the 24-hour numerals, all filled with black. Case back is a screw-down type, brushed with a polished lip with information about the watch engraved around the exhibition window that shows off a surprisingly nice rotor and decent looking movement for Chinese movement in a fairly cheap watch. Lastly, we have the crown, which has a decent crown guard on either side to protect it from snags. The crown is a perfect size for this watch, has fairly good grip for winding and setting the watch, and has the Pagani Design logo embossed into the face. Overall, it's a nice case. Under the crystal, which Pagani Design claims is a hard-coated, scratch-resistant sapphire with 7-fold anti-reflective treatment on both sides, is a dial that's mostly excellent. I'll start with all the positives. It's a simple white backdrop, and at the outermost edge you have a simple black printed minute track. Below that you have the hour markers, which use circles for everything other than the triangle at 12 and the rectangles at 6 and 9. All of these applied markers are black borders with large lume fillings. On the dial under the 12, you have the Pagani Design logo and brand, while above the 6, you have GMT in orange, automatic, and then info about the water resistance specs. The handset aesthetically is a homage to the Rolex Explorer GMT II, with the exception of some of the length and width proportions. That and the fact that the GMT hand on this watch ends with the arrow, rather than an extended point like on the Rolex. Otherwise, they're the same shape, and the 3 main hands are black while the GMT hand is orange. All of this looks great together, creating a clean and simple look with tons of contrast. The 2 minor negatives are related to the proportions. The circular hour markers, although clearly large enough to be usable, are small enough that the more you look at the watch, the more the dial feels empty because those markers lack presence. The other issue is the length of the handset. It's not blindingly short for this dial, but there's a noticeable distance between the ends of the minute hand and second hand to the minute track that kinda drives me a little bit nuts. But other than those 2 proportion issues, it's a nice dial. You have 2 usable complications on this watch, the date at 3 o'clock and the GMT function. The date is obviously a useful complication and it works, but the Cyclops on this watch distorts the date to the point of making it completely unreadable unless you're looking through it perfectly straight on. The GMT function works well. You can adjust the GMT hand independently from the time by pulling the crown out to the first position, although that position is also the date adjustment position, so you have to be careful which direction you turn the crown or else you wind up having to scroll through the entire date disc to reset the date. Otherwise, it's easy to adjust and you can clearly see where the GMT hand is pointing at all times, so it works well. The lume on this watch is just okay. It looks really cool, being that it glows blue rather than the typical green, but it doesn't pick up a charge from standard indoor light very well, and although it holds a charge for a decent amount of time when directly charged, it's not very bright. So it's there, and it works, but like I said, it's just okay. Time at a glance on this watch is excellent, despite my earlier criticisms regarding the hand length and hour markers. Everything is black against the white dial, and the hands have definitive tips on them that clearly show you where they're pointing. I found it very simple to find the time on this watch at a quick glance. The bracelet on this watch is pretty nice. It's your standard 3-link design, brushed to match the case and bezel perfectly, and Pagani Design's upgraded push-button clasp not only looks good, but works well, and has fine adjusters on it so you can make small tweaks to the size of the bracelet without having to add or remove a link. I found it to be fairly comfortable throughout the day, and it balances the watch body well. It's a solid bracelet for this piece. Last but not least, we have value, which, as opposed to some of the other Pagani Design stuff that I have reviewed on this channel, for once, this one's a bit tricky. As of the time of this review, this watch is for sale on the Pagani Design website for $215. Now, for an automatic mechanical GMT watch that looks surprisingly like a Rolex Explorer GMT II from a distance, $215 is a good price for sure, but you have two big things to consider. Number one being whether or not you want to wear a Rolex homage piece. The other being whether or not you want to spend over $200 on a watch with a Chinese movement in it, because go crawl some watch forums and you will see the never-ending mixed opinions on the Chinese movements. Some of them seem to turn out to be workhorses. Some of them seem to need to be replaced in a matter of 6 months or a year. And as you were able to see with this one when I ran it on the scope, I'm sure it could be regulated to be much more accurate than it is currently, but you know, plus 24 seconds a day isn't fantastic. But if you love the aesthetic of the Rolex Explorer II and don't have $15-ish thousand laying around, and you do want something visually similar and you don't mind a Chinese movement, then I actually think this is a pretty good value for that price. Well, if you have one of these, absolutely leave comments down below and let everybody know about your opinion and your experience with this watch, because obviously that's going to help people make an informed decision. And if you have any other Pagani Design watches that you would like to share your experiences with, feel free to leave those down in the comments as well. Another big shout out to Anthony for sending this in. Very much appreciated. And that's it. I have a lot more watch reviews coming up soon, so make sure that you're subscribed and stay tuned over here at Should I Time This?